system in place to keep us in chains. By a show of hands, who else is sick and tired of the same 1%? Trying to keep us small, trying to keep us from getting out. Minimizing the struggles they've caused, saying we're not working hard enough.
We really should stop this fighting. Otherwise, we'll miss the fireworks.
There won't be any fireworks.
And here we go.
And welcome everybody to Suck It. I am the great and powerful King of Kings, Prince of all that is awesome, Derek. How is everybody today? I hope you are enjoying life and, things are going well. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. I'm not going to say what day it is because I honestly have no idea what day this is going to air. It might be Tuesday, so we could say February 2nd, or I don't know. I guess we'll see. But either way, I hope everything is going well for you on whatever day you are listening to this on. I know I am doing well, and that's all that matters. My self-preservation is all that matters to me at this moment. No, I'm just kidding. I care about all you guys too, and you know that. But either way, I do truly hope everything is going well, and we're continuing on, with our whole mind, body, and soul continuation from what we started last week, recentering ourselves and refocusing ourselves, and taking a break from the music talk and the comedy talk and everything else like that to really kind of refocus on the mental health aspect of things of the show. And again, next week, the bands and comedians will be back in full force. But again, going forward, once we get through this mind, body, and soul time, it'll be more diverse. A band one day, a comedian the next day, an author or a mental health survivor the following day, however it works out. But either way, the consistency of bands or just comedians is over, and it'll be a more mix and diverse sort of topics, and it'd be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And again, that theme continues on today, because the guest that I have on with me today is a mental health survivor. To put it, lightly, she's also a certified life coach and a bunch of other stuff, and we'll get into all of that and more, because again, her and like all my other guests this past week, or the last 2 weeks I should say, that I've been focusing on mental health, have had very parallel stories to mine, and hers is no different. And it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation. So let's just get right into it. And please welcome to the show, Miss Kayla Brissi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm alive and breathing. And even though it's a chilly day here in Wisconsin, I'm okay with it today.
It is a chilly day here in D.C., I can tell you that much.
Yes.
We're actually getting ready to get like some nasty storms this weekend, supposedly.
Oh, no. We just had a big storm here in Wisconsin, and we got a few inches, but today we've had a pretty mild winter for the most part, but otherwise today it's getting to be pretty chilly, and now it's really beginning to feel more like like winter, and I'm not quite ready for it yet.
Yeah, our winter so far, even our fall, was really cold. Like today it's like 18, but it's been really, really cold. Not much snow. We had a big snowstorm back at the middle of December, but other than that, we haven't had much. A few flurries here and there, light dustings. But yeah, it's been pretty mild for snow and rain, but the cold has just been kicking our butt. It's been fantastic.
Yes.
I love the cold. Absolutely love the cold. I keep my heat on like 59, 60, and it pisses people off when they come over. They're like, can we turn the heat up? It's cold. I'm like, put on a hoodie. Keep on some socks. If you're going to come to my house, make sure you're wearing a hoodie. I'd rather be cold. I enjoy the cold. It keeps me, makes me like want to bundle up in bed and just sit around and watch reruns of Family Guy all day.
I could see that. I'm definitely more of a person that likes the warmer weather, but I can handle, fall is my favorite time of year, so I can handle a little bit of the cold.
Yeah, see, winter into spring is my favorite time of year, but I'm originally from Ohio, so I was born right on Lake Erie, so I'm used to those really, really horrible lake effect snows. And then we moved to Florida when I was 8, and I lived in the heat for 20-some years, and I hated the heat. with an, the utmost passion. So being in this area, it's it's nice, a little balance of both. And I
Sure.
never want to go back to heat again. Hate it, hate it. So tell us about yourself. Give a little bit of backstory about who you are and why you're here.
Sure. Well, there's so much to my backstory, but taking it back to 2017, I lost my dad to cancer. And, it was a real pivotal moment for me in my life. I was very close with my dad. So, it rocked me to my core. It sucked. I essentially lost, the main prominent male figure in my life that has always been there. He was kind of my rock. And things were just really difficult. My father left me in charge of his estate, so I had a lot of things to take care of after he had passed. And, he made me make a promise to him that I'd take care of all of my family, so my mom and my siblings, and to make sure that everything was taken care of. And so there was a lot of weight on my shoulders, even before he passed, but especially once he passed, it was a lot to take in. And for me personally, the thing that I struggled with the most was really being able to accept that responsibility and knowing that it was okay to not be okay. That was one of the biggest learning and growing spurts that I had to go through with this whole grieving and mental health and this whole issue. And it wasn't until, oh gosh, it was December of 2018. I flipped out on my son. I mean, I flipped out. And it was a wake up call that I needed, because the look on his face, looking at me in complete terror, like I was a monster, it was definitely the turning point where I knew that I needed to get help, and that the feelings that I was feeling were not okay. It was impacting me, it was impacting my job, it was impacting me working with my clients, my relationships, and everyone deserved better than that. So I brought my butt into the doctor reluctantly and talk to them about what was going on. And I was diagnosed with recurrent major depression, signs of PTSD, and generalized anxiety disorder. And in all honesty, that really hit me hard. It was really kind of a kick to my stomach, really hurt my ego more than anything else. But I was living in denial that there was anything else going on. And I had previously been diagnosed with, depression and anxiety, but my depression previously was seasonal. So it wasn't anything, not that I'm on downplaying, mental health, but it wasn't severe for me at that point. But when I got diagnosed with, recurrent major depression and generalized anxiety disorder and signs of PTSD, it was pretty major for me and life changing. So I got the help that I did, full well knowing that at some point I wanted to wean myself off the medication and be able to manage my symptoms, holistically. I didn't want to be on the medication forever, but I knew that I needed that help to be able to get me to that point and to get through the things that I was really struggling with, because it was difficult. There were days that, I mean, days upon days that I didn't want to get off the couch. I stayed in my pajamas. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I was an emotional freaking hot mess. It was pretty bad. And, I isolated myself, and I just, I curled up. I came inward and didn't want to talk to anybody, and was really struggling to just process everything, simply because I felt that because I had to be the strong one for the family, I couldn't crumble and fall, even though all around me everything was crumbling and falling before my eyes. But I was too stubborn and too prideful to admit that I really needed the help, until you know the day that came, and I was like, all right, it was time. So after that, my journey really began, where I started to explore looking at alternative and holistic methods to be able to help handle my anxiety and my depression, and really kind of change my lifestyle and take a different approach to things, and being more mindful about everything that's going on, and not being ashamed that I have a mental health illness. Mental health doesn't define me. It's just part of who I am, and every day is different. Some days I have better days than others, but I roll with the punches and continue to keep going, going through the process. And through the whole experience with losing my dad, it actually helped me shift a lot of things professionally for me, for years, I was a business coach and a marketing strategist, and I really dove headfirst into that line of work. And after he passed, things really shifted, and I started focusing more on the life coaching and the mindset work and really helping people, work through those deep inner pains that they were feeling that could be from, the loss of their health with mental health, loss of a parent, a job loss, infertility, those things, and started working with them to really just to harness the power behind that pain that they have and turn it into a purpose, turn it into something better and more meaningful than being stuck sitting in those feelings of despair and regret and, really, really sitting in the ego of being so embarrassed or being shameful about what's really going on in your life and just embracing it more. And so things really shifted, and that's where I've kind of got to be where I am now. And last year I released a book called Healing from Grief, and I really talk about my journey of losing my dad, all the methods that I've done to help support myself with my anxiety and my depression, and use that as kind of a turning point to make this pivot of really just shifting and helping others in this way with regard of what's going on in their life and helping them move through it. So that's kind of my nutshell journey of where I was from here to where I am now and all the things that I am part of and doing. And it's been a really fun experience, a lot of learning and growing pains, but it's been worth it.
Yeah. The learning curve of trying to figure out who you are as a person and
Mhm.
how you're going to manage this day to day,
Mhm.
once you're diagnosed is insane.
It
Needless
is.
to say, it really is because it's not like anything really changes, but it's more like, okay, I know I was semi dealing with this already without even really realizing it or refusing to deal with
Mhm.
it. So now how do I continue on with my life, but the same way it was before, but now making it easier to manage.
Yes.
That right there is just very interesting because, like I said before, our stories are kind of parallel.
Mhm.
Mine was in 2018 where I got diagnosed. However, and mine was triggered by my dad's stroke, and also just collapsing things at work and just everything just getting worse and worse and worse in life in general. But for years and years and years and years and years, I had bouts of anger, just lashing out
Mhm.
irrationally and just this constant, oh, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Then what the hell was that? I don't even know. you know,
It's just me. It's
it's
just
just
part of who
me.
I
It's just
am.
part of who I am. And then 2014, 2015, I can't remember. But my brother was diagnosed as bipolar and a bunch of other
Mhm.
things. And then a little bit later, my mom was as well. And my wife at the time, she was like, yeah, you need to go get checked too, because this could be genetic.
Mhm.
And I'm like, nah, I'm good. And she had
Yeah.
told me for years that I was, there's something wrong. And I'm like, no, this is who I am. And, I refused forever to get
Mhm.
diagnosed, refused for forever to acknowledge it. Because again, like you said, it's a hit to your ego. It's like,
It is.
because that means like that you don't have full control of who you are.
Yes.
The chemical imbalance or the genetic defect, whatever the
Mhm.
cause is for your stuff, is now controlling a certain aspect of your life that you thought you had complete control of. And it is a
Absolutely.
huge hit to your ego. And I just refused to allow that to happen. But it just got to the point where it was so bad in 2018 that, I almost committed suicide. Was just constantly sleeping, constantly tired all the time,
Mhm.
just lethargic every moment of every day. And I just had a complete mental break when my dad had his stroke. That was it. That was the nail in the
Mhm.
coffin for me. And got diagnosed as bipolar, with PTSD and and anxiety, and it was just like, whew, okay. I guess it's okay. I guess I've always I guess I've always known, but just it was a
was hard to
It
accept.
really was. But it was like, again, it was something I knew was coming.
Yes.
And like yourself, I hate being on all the medications.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, until something else, is discovered in my
Mm-hmm.
head to where I can get off of, the actual depression medications,
Yep.
which manages my bipolar, I've been able to get off of anxiety meds, so I don't have to take Klonopin anymore
Awesome.
or Xanax. I use medicinal
Sure.
products found from the ground that might be green and leafy. Um, but it works. And but that day to day, um, it does struggle even now 2 years later for both of us. It almost
Mhm.
it's a lot. It sucks.
It does. There's days that I can be perfectly fine the day before, be high on life, everything's good, and the next day it'll be like flip of a switch. My anxiety is through the roof. I can't explain it. And that's, I think, one of the worst feelings in the world is that lack of control and not knowing what the hell is actually causing the anxiety. What's causing me to feel the way that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And then it disrupts the entire day. I can't, I struggle with being a mom. I struggle with doing anything for my business. I struggle just taking care of myself when my anxiety gets to that point. And, so then it's when things like that happen for me, it's like, well, there's not a whole lot I can do for the day. I know that I have to take care of myself. It's the self-care, self-love, be selfish for the day, put myself first, and really just focus on my mental health. Because if I don't, and I continue to keep trying to push through and plow through and just do everything I need to get done, the next day it's going to be worse. It's going to be lingering and continue on. And it's just going to be a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn that when those days hit, I really just have to focus and take care of myself and work through whatever the trigger was. If I can pinpoint it, it's great. But sometimes I really can't. And that's the thing that really sucks. It's, you don't know. And it's just it's part of your life. Sometimes you really don't know what the trigger is or what's really causing it, but you're in that space and it's impacting you. And it can significantly impact you if you're not mindful about it. And even for me with, choosing to get off the medication, that was a decision that didn't come lightly for me. And I had to do a lot of work for myself to be able to get to that point. But, mental illness runs in my family. I'm not afraid to share that. And I have family members that are still on their medication because they need to be on that medication and they choose to be, and it works for them. And that's perfect. It's wonderful, but sometimes you just have to go a different route for like
Yeah.
you and I. And I'm so glad that you were able to kind of skill back on some of your stuff and find alternative methods for you that work too, because everyone's journey is different. Everyone's experience with mental health is different. Everyone's, even just their method of wanting to cope and handle with everything is just so different. And that's what really makes this topic really interesting for me when I talk to other people. It's, what's going on with you and what works for you and how do you handle things? Because the beauty of that is there might be something that I'm doing that might work for you or that you want to try, and
Yeah.
vice versa. And it opens up that conversation and really breaks down the stigma of mental health being such a bad thing, or that you should be ashamed of it, or God forbid you talk about having any mental health issues because you're going to be crazy, or, whatever the case may be with all these stigmas. There's more people on this earth that have mental health issues than share about it, that talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of a shame. Like it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a matter of who you are and learning how to, one, accept it, and knowing how to get the support you need for it,
Yeah. And like I said before, I mean, the holistic approach to, depression and anxiety and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Almost fully and in a non-illegal way. I mean,
Yep.
because studies have shown, regardless of the propaganda that's out there, that
Mm-hmm.
two of the best, types of, holistic approaches to depression and anxiety is marijuana and mushrooms. in micro doses. Not, don't eat a whole mushroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's microdosing in tea, but but those things help with, and they're there's obviously some side effects, but the side effects outweigh the sexual side effects or the suicidal thoughts that you get from prescription medication. And that right there in itself should say, yeah, this is something wrong here. And most people are like, well,
Absolutely.
and they but then on top of that, you create a dependency. When they say if you ever decide to come off of your antidepressant, if it's an SSRI such as Lexapro or Zoloft, they say it can take 6 weeks to come off of it properly. You have to lower your dose, every so often, and
Yep.
it's like, okay, so that's a problem too, people. Do you
Yeah,
not see
weaning
that?
yourself off, and then after you wean yourself off, after your first 6 to 8 weeks, and then after that point, wow, after I weaned myself off, I forgot how things were going to make me feel. But then it was, oh gosh, like everything was just kind of crazy for me
Yeah.
for a bit after that. I wasn't thinking clearly. Like it really shifted perspective, and honestly, it wasn't myself after I weaned myself off. And hindsight's always 2020. So after I look back and I'm thinking about the 2 months after I weaned myself off, and I was like, gosh, I really did some stupid shit. I said things, I did things, I really wasn't in my right mind. And you can't tell me that there's not the correlation of weaning yourself off of the medication that you've been dependent on for how many months to now going through these periods of really just being kind of not yourself. There's that connection.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary when you think about it, with how much that medication can really impact you and change things within you, where when I look back, I was like, gosh, who is that person? That really wasn't me, and I did some really stupid things. But
yeah,
live and learn, I guess.
yeah, and
All
another
part of the story.
yeah, and another parallel that you mentioned while you were just talking too was that your anxiety triggers your depression. And
Yes.
mine is the exact same way. And that's not the case for some people. Sometimes depression triggers the anxiety, or sometimes they just don't even correlate at all. It all depends on,
Yep.
how you're diagnosed, whatever else. But yours does the exact same thing to me, like that that mine does. And for me, it could go one of two ways. It could either, depending on the type of anxiety or stress that I'm having, can actually trigger a manic day to where I'm which I'm starting to feel a little bit manic now. But then, or if it's like, oh my God, this and this and this and this and this, down day.
Yes.
And those down days, I can barely get out of bed.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard to get out of bed. You want to sleep. You want to do nothing.
And I can actually feel it coming on. Like I know days in advance. Like this week has been crazy stressful. I've been on, manic tendencies all week just because I overworked myself this week, which is fine. I love it.
Yes.
So it's like Saturdays I'm like, oh no, Saturday's gonna be hitting hard. The first day I don't have anything to do. It's like, oh shit. Okay, do I even want to move?
Exactly. And it's funny that you mentioned that that it's coming. I shouldn't say it's funny, but it's interesting.
No,
it's
it's funny.
coming, but you also know that it's coming because you've overworked yourself. And that's the same thing for me, that I know that if I am hustling too much in the business, working too much at home, got too many things going on in my personal life, and I'm not finding that balance of taking care of myself, then I know too that at some point I'm going to crash and burn. And I'm going to feel it the most the day that I take my time off to do nothing, my Saturdays, my Sundays, when I'm not working or doing things. I know it's going to hit. And it's almost like, it sucks because it's like, well, I know it's coming. Do I find something to keep myself busy so I don't overthink about it? Or do I just fully embrace it and, deal with what I know is going to come? But your anxiety is triggered just like mine is. If I'm working too much, I will get to that point, and I know that it's coming. And it's really being mindful and cognizant about knowing when to scale back and really take time away and just take care of yourself. Have a mental health day is what I like to call it. It's like, nope, I just need to check out. Like, it's no work, no nothing. I'll tend to my wifely, motherly duties like I'm supposed to, but everything else can we put on the back burner.
See, for me, it's the complete opposite. Because doing this show, regardless of the type of guest I'm having on, whether it's mental health or, music or whatever, this show takes me out of that mindset because now I'm focusing strictly on something else. So the idea of overworking myself is intentional because while I'm doing it, I have no issues. I might be manic sometimes and talk a little fast and go a little crazy with it, but the actual depression and the anxiety goes away. And again, like I said, it's cathartic. And so when I'm on the weekends and I'm not doing anything, that's when, the biggest problem is if I don't book myself too much, or if I leave myself too long of gaps, in between, recording interviews or doing live interviews or whatever the case might be, then it's like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and play on TikTok. There's other things I could be doing, but no, let me play on Facebook or Instagram. Oh, wait a minute. Family Guy's on. Let me watch that. Something, and I just completely zone out and I don't want to do anything. And then it's like, oh shit, I got a show in 10 minutes. Okay. But then when I get into my studio and I start playing on the computer, everything clicks on and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
do. And my mind is a scary place.
No, but I think it's a beautiful thing. Like everyone is so unique to begin with, but when you incorporate your mental health into the mix of things, it's a whole other layer to your being, and finding what works for you and how to really live with what's going on and use it to your advantage, I think is great. It's a wonderful way to be able to leverage that and be able to work around it, because it is part of your life. It doesn't have to define who you are, but you can definitely use the inconvenience to your advantage like you do. And when you know that you're in that state, and you know that when you need to get plugged in, you're on, and everything else just kind of fades away, and you're not stuck in that mode that can sometimes be almost paralyzing. At least for me, that's how it is. If I get stuck too much in that position of worrying about, oh my gosh, my anxiety is taking over, or whatever the case may be, if I don't work myself through it, I can't. It takes a while to get out of it, and then I got to dig myself out of that hole, which isn't a good thing.
Yeah, and you just spoke to something that is one of the worst triggers for not only me, but I know thousands of other people with anxiety, is getting anxiety because you're afraid of getting anxiety. So the anxiety, it triggers the anxiety. It's like the thought of it, like, oh no, I don't want to stress myself out today. And then you're stressed out because you don't want to get stressed out. And then it is the most vicious cycle ever. And it's scary.
It is. And with anxiety, you worry about everything, even the littlest things that you shouldn't even worry about. And it's just so stupid. But that's just how your brain works when you have anxiety. You're in a constant state of worry. You're questioning everything. You're worrying about not worrying. It's like it's this vicious cycle of this mental health journey. It's like, oh my gosh, I just need to shut it off and tune it out. And even for myself, like if I stay busy, it helps. It's when I stop staying busy, then I can go into those periods of, really getting anxiety and depression overload. But at the same time too, if I work myself too much, then it gets to be too much, and then I'm on like burnout. So I have to find like that happy medium and that balance for myself just to kind of keep going. And I've learned that there's certain times of the year that, certain months where I'm more triggered, I'm more sensitive. I need to take care of myself a little bit more. I need to unplug and not take on so much work. So that has been, I guess you could say, a blessing in disguise, as I've learned since the diagnosis and seeing these trends, that now I can prepare for that.
Yeah.
So obviously, like around my dad's birthday or my birthday or big holidays, those are big trigger points, or, the anniversary of his passing, those are monumental moments for me that trigger. And so now I know that, okay, if it's around the time of his birthday, I probably need a week or two to just kind of be more low key. Christmas, I take off like the whole month because I need that time. Less work, focus on myself, stay off of Facebook, and really just tune in and just be more present with my family and focus on the things that bring me more joy and not on all the other things. And being triggered by being on social media, seeing stuff that's on there and it's like, that's really great for them, but that really sucks for me type
Yeah.
of thing. And being triggered, let's be honest, you can get triggered on social media rather quickly and easy.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
herein lies where the difference between you and I, as far as this kind of stuff goes, is sometimes I want to get triggered because I'm
Mm,
so cynical and the cynicism controls my brain. And being that I'm also, a comedian and I don't always do these mental health focused shows, and I have
sure.
a lot of friends who are comedians that come on the show and we just shit around for, a couple hours. um, I like to have ammunition, so I will like,
Uh,
you know, purposefully send myself into a depression. Therefore, I
oh my gosh.
overanalyze everything on the internet and stupid news stories and stuff like this. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be like a great joke, and I just start writing material, and it's like, and that's actually when I write my best materials, when I'm depressed
Hmm.
or when I'm
I
manic.
could see that.
If I'm just normal that day, it's like my jokes suck.
Hmm.
But if I'm like
Hmm.
super manic and then everything is just joke, 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 and whatever sticks, I write down. Um,
Hmm.
and then depression days, it's like it's dark and twisted, and it's like, yes, this is good shit. So
Hmm.
sometimes I will intentionally trigger myself for that purpose, and that is the
Yeah,
dumbest thing ever. But for some reason, I think it's fucking amazing.
it is. But you've learned what works for you and really how to leverage what you have going on in your situation to your advantage. And that's honestly, I think that's a beautiful thing. I mean, granted, I couldn't do that. It would send me in a whole downward spiral of, whatnot. But for you, it works.
It
I think it's
pisses people
great.
off around me though.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
get over it.
I mean, no, yeah, they're like, okay, enough, Jesus Christ, enough, and because it's like I said, it's everything I do is all about the comedy. Everything I do is
Hmm.
how do I get a laugh? Okay, all right, now I said this stupid one-liner. Now, how can I turn that into a 3 or 4 minute joke on the show or on stage?
Hmm.
And then it's a constant like, how do I?
Hmm.
Like I said, it annoys people around me. But there's other people that do the exact same thing,
Hmm.
but for in different ways. Like, they'll purposefully get themselves into a manic state. Therefore, when they get to work, they're overly productive, and it just kind of flies by.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people who do that. Like my brother, you know, when he's, because he's bipolar one, which is the more severe version of
Hmm.
bipolar. Um, he cannot be normal or not depressed unless he's at work. Um, but the moment he's at work, all of his problems go away. Now, I would like to say that my brother lives in the Florida Keys and is a professional diving instructor. So,
Oh, wow.
working in the ocean with, all the beautiful sea life, it can't. If you're depressed, I don't care what level of depression you have. If you are depressed when you get into that fucking beautiful ass water,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with you. Like above and
Hmm.
beyond the mental illness, there's just something fucking wrong with you. So he will purposefully, like, even when he's not like working, he'll like volunteer his time to just go dive
Hmm.
with another instructor just because he wants to be diving. So like
Sure.
he's never not in the water. I mean, the dude's gonna grow gills eventually, in my opinion. But uh, and I know some people that are like that, and it's the mind. I once I heard this the other day that um, our body is like the ocean or like the earth is 70% water.
Hmm.
And we know as much about the ocean that we do about our bodies. And because like our human body and the mind is as unknown and as tapped as the ocean. And that is a scary, scary thought, to know that we've had, all these modern advances in technology to be able to explore the ocean as well as explore the
Hmm.
mind and body, but yet we haven't even scratched the surface
Yes.
into any of it. Like I saw somebody the other day talk about this. Something as stupid as the appendix. They said, hey, what was the original purpose of the appendix? I know it's useless now, but what was the original purpose? And they're like, actually, we've come to realize that it's not useless. We just don't know what it does.
Oh,
And
geez, yeah.
yeah, like they said, for millions of for hundreds of years that we thought, it's completely useless, and unfortunately, evolution just hasn't taken care of it yet. But now, over time, we've actually noticed that it was moving closer to the intestines and actually getting bigger in most cases. So now we're like, we don't even know what it does. So it's like, how? So you deemed it useless, and now it's like, oh, wait a second, wait a minute, it's not. So, and that's the kind of, stuff that they're, still studying,
Sure.
useless organs. And they even found a new organ in our body recently, and they're still unsure what it does. And it's like, wait a second, it, it's just baffling how little we know about the human mind and the human body.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many things that we don't know about it. I mean, we haven't, yeah, like you mentioned, we haven't even began to scratch the surface. And there's so many different tests that are coming out for helping with mental disorders. And of course, now I can't think of the article that I read, but there's this new test that basically it's like a brain scan, and it can actually help diagnose very specific mental health disorders. And I was like, really? Are we really to that point already that they can now just do a scan of your head and they can diagnose you? How accurate is that? But it's interesting. It's like, have we evolved to that point that we are there, and how accurate is it really going to be?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can kind of see. I didn't read that article. I'll have to seek that out because I'm curious about that now. But I can kind of understand how they could, in theory, see that. But at the same time, it's one of those, how
Hmm.
accurate is it?
Hmm.
Because, for the longest time, you know, everyone always says, well, we only use 10% of our brain. Well, we've now found out that that is completely false. We use 100% of our brain, and nobody knows where that came from. It's like, but now it's like, okay, well, here's where the pain, if I poke you with this, this part of your brain should light up. But if I'm not
Hmm.
touching you at all, why is it still lighting up? Is it an emotional pain, or is it a physical pain that you're feeling within you, that you're
Hmm.
just not acknowledging? I mean, and or this over here should be happy, happiness, but you're telling me you're depressed. So why are you happy about being depressed? And it's like so without all that information still not being known, how could they even
Hmm.
test for that in a brain
Hmm.
scan? Again, I could see the potential of it being amazing, but until we could figure
Hmm.
out all the other intricacies of it all, I don't
Oh
see how
yeah.
it's possible to be accurate.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I can't remember the full exact details, and of course it's going to bug me now. And I want to say it was through a brain scan, but I do believe it was a German company that created this equipment and has been testing it out. And it was an article that I just happened to stumble upon and actually send it to my client. I was like, check this out. This is kind of interesting. And it was something that I have never seen before and didn't even realize that we were going down that path with mental illnesses. But hey, if it works down the road and does what it says it's going to do, I don't know, it might be a really great thing for those of us that really struggle, or those of us that are too afraid to go and actually admit that there's anything wrong. I shouldn't say if there's anything wrong, that we are unique in what we have and what goes on in our brains. We're just a rare unicorn, so
Exactly.
to speak.
And like you said, we're and realistically, there's nothing ever really wrong. It's just we're just unique in our abilities. And
Hmm.
it's even with that, reason why we both say that is because it's okay to not be okay.
Hmm.
It really truly is, and there's should be never a stigma around it. Um,
Hmm.
as a life coach
Hmm.
and having to deal with this stuff yourself, how do you manage the things that you're coaching your person on that you still can't even manage on your own?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, interestingly, to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, when I lost my dad, within that first year, I had 7 or 8 clients that all lost a parent in that time frame. And that was interesting. So to know that I was going through grief and really struggling, obviously, with my mental health without really acknowledging it or realizing it or admitting it, I was helping them go through these feelings too, going through grief and loss, struggling with, depression and anxiety, things of that nature. And what really worked for me is honestly taking myself out of the equation, really focusing on what they had going on and allowing them to just be open and honest and share with me what they are feeling and experiencing, and working together to find solutions, things that could work for them. Really just creating that safe place that they could be as vulnerable as they potentially want it to be. And just I don't know, I guess just really holding that space for them. And then after the calls that we would have, what I would do is I would take time and I would journal, and I'd go through, how did this particular call make me feel? Was I triggered in any way? And just started going through and essentially just peeling back the layers of that particular situation within and of myself, and start working through that, so that I was, in a sense, helping them heal, but on the back end was still helping me heal and go through the process too, and really identifying a lot of what was going on with me, which then helped me prep for our next session and say, hey, here's what I've noticed, here's what I've experienced. Let's talk about this. Is this similar for you too? And so it allowed for me to have this open door policy back and forth of, here's what I'm experiencing in a professional standpoint. Here's what I've done. Here's what I've noticed. Let's have a discussion about it with you. And where are you at with this? How is this making you feel? Do you experience this as well? And through that process, it really helped me essentially helped me create like my own little framework of really identifying what was going on with them, allowing me to be able to keep myself in check and not get triggered in the moment, to help them, and then do the internal work afterwards and really just help move myself forward in the process of also helping them too. But I mean, it wasn't an easy feat by any means. I mean, that first year when I had 7 or 8 clients that all had lost a parent and all struggling with the same thing as myself, I sat there thinking, like, seriously, I'm trying to deal with my own stuff over here. How in the heck am I supposed to be helping these other people going through the same thing when I don't even know how to even process what I've got going on myself? And I think it just forced me to have to figure out a way. I had to find a way to make it work, because I couldn't let myself down, I couldn't let them down, and it just allowed me to really tap in and be, persevere despite everything that was going on, and make it work.
So, in essence, um, helping people that are going through similar situations that you go through, that you're still trying to figure out how to manage, is actually therapeutic for you.
Yeah, it is. It is therapeutic for me. It's healing for me. It actually helps give me a lot of ideas of how I can help others. So having, I'm very honest with my clients and I'm very open. So, I don't hide what's going on in my life with them. I let them, they're very aware. And, by doing that, it's created the dialogue for that safe space, but it's given me so many ideas when they're like, hey, I did this the other day and it really worked for me. Here's what I did, here's how it helped me. What are your thoughts on this? And we can then have a discussion about whatever strategy or approach that they took and really kind of gain momentum with it. But it really is therapeutic and healing. Even writing my book, being in sharing my story in chapters of anthologies. The first story that I had published was a chapter in an anthology, and it was obviously all about losing my dad and my mental health journey and all of that. And I cried through writing all 3,500 plus words of that chapter, but it was the release of letting it go, accepting and acknowledging, and it was therapeutic. It was healing for me. And it really started opening up the doors for me, internally, of just embracing everything, being open and honest, and learning how to work through that pain. Not every day is good. So you've got to learn how to work through it. Otherwise, you're going to be one hot mess, So, but yeah, it's definitely therapeutic for me to help others go through things that I've gone through or what I'm currently going through right in the moment, because what I find is it actually can help me get through it quicker. It gives me that momentum or that push to get through things quicker on my end. And then it gives me ideas of how I can help my clients too. I guess it's more like motivation or a challenge. I like the challenge behind it.
Yeah. And, in the last couple of weeks that I've been talking to, the mental health, people, I've talked to another life coach as well, who, again, went through her stuff and, had a bunch of other mental life, stuff going on, and then eventually had her breakdown and was like, you know what, I'm going to start doing this for myself, and started became a life coach after, being a accountant for 30 years. Eventually just said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to go help other people. And then, then I talked to, Carrie the other day or yesterday, whatever day that was, Tuesday. And, she's doing the exact same thing. She's had her issues, and now she's becoming a life coach as well. And, the idea of somebody taking their life experiences that have absolutely crushed them and absolutely changed who they are as a person, and taking that and then using it to help other people is of the utmost admiration from me. People who do that are far and few between, and it is such an honor to be able to have talked to people like yourselves and the others that I've talked to, because it doesn't happen every day. You don't see. Sometimes you see life coaches who come out and are like, well, I have a great life, but I want to help other people get to the point where I'm at. And it's like, you son of a bitch, fucking
yeah. Well, everyone and their brother is a coach these days, and it's like, well, I've had my life coaching certifications. I mean, I've got multiple, but I've had them for years. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with the life coaching certification. I knew that at some point I was going to use it. I just didn't know how. And it wasn't until I went through everything that I did where I was like, oh, funny how that works out. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I know why I had to do it how many years ago. And I just didn't really, I used it, but I didn't really advertise like, hey, I'm a life coach all the time, So, it got me to that point where it was that shift, but I agree. There is admiration for people that have gone through pain and struggle and then have used what they've gone through to help others. You have a different appreciation for the work that you do than folks that just come out onto the screen and say, hey, I'm a life coach.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you.
I want to.
No offense to them, but let's be honest. You have a deeper appreciation for the work you do when you've been in the trenches with the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
You do.
Yep. Because a lot of people go into helping people with mental health for all the wrong reasons, and the ones that have suffered the most are usually the ones that can help you the most as well.
Absolutely.
So if you're looking for a life coach or an executive coach, whatever you want to call it, there's look for the ones that are as broken as you are. And that is the most blunt way I can put it. If they seem perfect, don't go to them. That's my opinion.
Yeah. It's definitely when you are looking for, any type of support, but especially with life coaches, you really need to do your due diligence. People can, I have a marketing background. I know all the tricks to fluffing things up and making things look pretty. All right. Let's be honest. And people can fool you into thinking that, you are whoever you say you are or whatever the case may be. But you need to look underneath the surface and look and see who are they and what's their experience? What is their backstory? Do you align with that backstory and their methods and their belief systems? Because if you don't have that commonality, don't have that alignment, that relationship is going to already be faltered. You're not going to be able to have a really good experience with a coach that you could really have. And coaching is a powerful, powerful service, at least in my opinion, but it really does move mountains. But you need to find the right person that's going to work for you. And I agree, looking under the surface and finding someone that is just as broken as you, has gone through what you've gone through, that understands you at your core, that is who you need to work with.
Yeah.
You really do.
I could not agree more. And just from the people I've talked to, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's what you've got to do, because they're willing to admit where they've gone wrong in life, and how they've gotten to the point where they're at now, and the fact that they're still not right is, again, completely admirable. Far too many people deal with depression and everything else like that, and anxiety, and hide it away, and
it's the highlight reel. No one wants to show anything other than the highlight reel,
exactly, and then cause more pain in the long run than anything else. Or they'll tell you for years that there's something wrong with them, and still they still do nothing to fix it, and then they commit suicide and then hurt again more people around them. It's the ones that have no problem talking about it and have no problem fixing it are the ones that deserve the admiration.
Yes, there's beauty in the vulnerability and the authenticity of who they are, and they have the courage to share the ugly parts of themselves that maybe they're afraid of, that they're embarrassed of, that they would rather keep hidden, but they know that by sharing their story, sharing the pain, sharing the struggle and the journey that they go through, it makes them more real. They're not on this pedestal where they seem, almost untouchable. They're just like you and I, they're on the same level. And that, for me, with my clients, I don't ever want to feel like I'm on this pedestal and I'm above them and better than them. No, I'm here. I'm at your side. I'm guiding you through it. I'm in the trenches with you. Let's do this together. We're a team. And that's how I really take the approach is I'm no better than you. I may be a few steps ahead of you, have other certifications and things underneath my belt that can help, but I'm right here with you. I'm at the same level as you. I'm going through the same stuff that you are. Let's do it together.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, and that goes for, stuff in life as well. I mean, when choosing a partner that you want to spend the rest of your life with, I mean, or just, your best friend or whatever the case might be, being accepting and, not being able to talk about your issues because you're afraid of being judged. And if you are ever afraid of being judged with the people that you're surrounding yourself with, don't surround yourself.
You're with the wrong people.
You're with the wrong people. Regardless of whether or not they've ever judged you or not, if you get that impression about these people, you're with the wrong people. Bottom line, the ones that are always, boasting themselves up and talking about how great they are and how wonderful they are and stuff like that. And, but they're never there for you, at the same time. It's like, okay, see ya.
Yeah, you need to find new people. But those people too, those that always bolster themselves up, that always talk about themselves, that aren't really there for you, I find that a lot of times they're the ones that have hidden things going on that they're too afraid to admit. They have a mental health issue that they refuse to go get diagnosed with, refuse to find the help, get on meds, whatever the case may be, they ignore it. And so it's part of this hype, is part of this highlight reel of I'm perfect and I'm untouchable and there's nothing wrong with me sort of thing. And I'm not like everybody else, or I don't have any issues, whatever the case may be. It's a story that they're telling themselves. So internally, they're creating this dialogue that they're this epitome of perfect, there's nothing going on, but inside, really deep inside, they're likely really hurting.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah.
That's a sad thing.
Exactly. That's the bully syndrome, or the ones that surround themselves with nothing but people that want to support them and a bunch of yes men. And, tell me how great I am. I'll tell you how great I am. You tell me how great I am. And if anyone ever, says anything negative about it, we cut them out. You know, it's like there's
Yeah.
something wrong there too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you just when you deal with these types of issues, you've got to be aware of who you can rely on, who you can trust, and who you can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the ones that are the most broken, like you, are the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
going to be there for you through thick and thin because they get it.
Mm-hmm. They do. You know, as much as I would not want the experience that I've had or anything that I've gone through on anybody, at the same time, it really has shaped me into who I am. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. Um, there's just something different about me because of the experience and the things that I've gone through. And it changes you, but it doesn't have to change you for, for the worse. It can change you for the better. And I think that's, part of that is really that mindset and how you're viewing what you have going on. But, it can change you for the better and make things better in your life. You have a renewed sense of purpose, a new outlook on life when you've gone through the things that we've gone through or dealing with the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis just to get through the day. It shifts your perspective.
Yeah, it really does.
It does. You can choose to find the joy and the good in your day. It's a matter of choice.
Exactly. And I've said this 1,000 times before on the show. The only person that's putting up a brick wall in your life, preventing you from doing anything in your life that's positive, is you. You know, if I don't care if you've been told 100 times you can't do this. If you say ever once, yeah, they're right, I can't do this, then they're right. You know, that brick wall is there because of you and nobody else. And that's 100% accurate, you know. I couldn't have, you hit the nail on the head with that. So,
Oh, good.
Kayla, you are an amazing person, and I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. And
Thank you.
and again, I love meeting people that have similar experiences to us, and just the seeing how it started, the journey that we took through, and where we're at now, and the things that we're going through. Again, still together, even though we're 1,200 miles apart or however far away we are. It's amazing about how closely we're aligned, even though we've never ever talked ever before, but yet we understand each other beyond anything else.
Yes.
It is.
That's what we do.
It is quite miraculous in my opinion. It's a pretty cool thought. But again, where can people find out more about you and especially your book?
Oh, sure. So I'm super easy to find online. My username for all my social media is my first and last name, Kayla Brissi. So I keep it pretty simple. And as far as my book, Healing from Grief, and my next one that comes out this summer, Transforming Inner Pain, you can actually get them both on Amazon.
And all the links for her stuff will be below. So please click them, check her out, buy the book, e-read the book, however you get your books, please do so. But again, Kayla, thank you so much for being here. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. I'm really glad I was able to hop on, and I love connecting with other people, and I'm so glad that our stories are so similar, and it was really, I had a lot of fun.
Yes, me too, definitely. But as far as everybody else goes, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you got something out of this conversation. Again, all the links for Kayla is below in the description or in the bio of the podcast. So please check it out. But again, if you guys need anything else, I will be here again tomorrow. But until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and as always, stay heavy. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.